proof of life type thing there.
We're actually real. We're not AI avatars here. Maybe.
Great, Cameron. I am so glad that you were able to offer that insight to us. We're going to have a great office hours today. What would you like to learn next?
About startups.
Well, welcome to our weekly Traction Lab office hours. Cameron and I happen to be in person today, so you're going to get a little in-person dynamic, and we're standing. So you're going to get, yeah, still a little sore. Okay. I myself am not. But we will take any questions that you guys have vaguely startup related, drop them into the chat. We also have 3 questions that were submitted live, and so we will answer those in turn as well. Are you warming up the chat?
I'm going to get it going right now.
Get the chat all nice and warm. All right. Well, while we do that, got all kinds of cool shit going on. We're in week 2 now, at the end of week 2 of the Traction Lab Venture School's founding cohort, which is going well. So we just spent a week on how to interpret experiment results and walk through this whole map this whole map that we have for how to, once you get data back, to follow this decision tree from, invalidated, validated, inconclusive, and then for each of those, what do you do? So if you, have invalidated, do you pivot, persevere, or pack it in? And for pivot, then there's 10 different pivots you can do. And so we just have this whole big tree that we've been walking founders through and doing all that. It's been a lot of fun. We're gonna, talk next week about, how do you know what to test? So now that we're going to keep building that muscle, how do you identify the really risky parts of the business? So how do you think it's been going?
I think it's been going great. And the bias towards action of the group has been awesome. So they're actually going and running those experiments, which has been great, and really helping them tackle that growth engine that they're really trying to build. So when we think about the whole experimentation process, it's about identifying data that then creates predictability, that then leads to that repeatability, and then ultimately scalability going forward, which we call our growth engine. And so we're helping them identify the gaps both in data and also that repeatability for them to move forward. So if you're interested in learning more, feel free to throw it in the chat or DM us, and we'll get you more information about our upcoming cohort 2. But I think with that, let's hop into the questions we got.
Yeah, so we'll always prioritize the live questions, so you can get those into the chat. But pre-submitted questions that we get, you can go to jdm.bio, or if you're listening to the replay of this, there's a link in the show notes, and submit your question there. You get a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more space. And so if you're in the podcast land version of this, then you'll probably want to submit your question in advance, since we can't take your questions on Spotify. So that's just, the technology isn't set up for it. It's lame.
We have a few friends there, but maybe they can integrate it for us.
Maybe, yeah. We can just take care of that. We'll just put in
who you are.
Feature request. Yeah, just putting in my order.
You're probably listening as well.
All right, but we're going to start with one of our that really echoed. We're going to start with one of our pre-submitted live questions. So forgive me while I look away from the camera to read the question aloud. This is B2B SaaS for handbell choir directors at churches. I actually don't know what that is, if I'm being honest.
You might have to do a little deep dive.
Yeah, you might have to get some AI help with this one. All right, their product is live, but they say that they're pre-revenue. And here's their question: music library management for handbell choirs, tracking sheet music, managing rehearsal schedules, coordinating ringers. I also don't know what that is. 145 choir directors using it. They absolutely love it. Super engaged, active in our Facebook group. The problem: handbell choirs are almost exclusively at churches, and churches don't pay for software. The choir directors are volunteers. When we ask who would pay, they say maybe the church office ? But the church offices say we don't have budget for the handbell choir software. It's this weird situation where users love it but has zero purchasing authority, and the organization with the money doesn't see the value. I genuinely don't know who to sell to. Help ? They also said considered going freemium with ads, but handbell directors are 65 plus years old on average and would hate ads. Also, the market is tiny, maybe 8,000 handbell choirs in the U.S. So you want to crush these people's dreams first? Yeah.
So, I think there's obviously a few standout things. So one distinction is understanding the economic buyer versus kind of the user. So it sounds like the user are these handbell choir people, our directors. But at the end of the day, it seems like the budget authority, it relies on the church administration and office itself. And so we have to then understand what value we're creating for them. And so partly is it that they're losing these handbell directors because they don't have the resources they need to successfully do their job. And so therefore that like leads to some sort of pain for the administration, which I'm not sure that we're actually hearing there is, because they haven't allocated budget. I see a pretty big assumption related to churches don't use software. I think I would imagine that they do in terms of tracking their parishioners and things of that nature. And so understanding what that actually looks like, and have you done that discovery work to understand the nuance of the problem, both for the directors as well as the administration office itself. And so I think we kind of blanketed and said, hey, this is their problem in terms of they don't understand technology and how it could solve that particular pain point. I think the last thing I would add in there is this, we consider going freemium with ads, and but handbell directors are like 65 on average and would hate ads. Well, I think everyone hates ads to a degree. And so like, is that actually an opportunity where they would pay you to not have those ads? So that's kind of your freemium model in action, right? That's usually how it's done, is like, I don't want to have these positioned to me anymore, so I'm going to pay for the opportunity not to have that. So kind of answered your own question to a degree there, but I think the biggest thing is to go do more of that discovery work with the actual economic buyer, because at the end of the day, if that doesn't go through, then it isn't likely to go anywhere. And I think, last point is like, I would want to understand like what your vision for this startup is. So if you're want this to be like venture backable, there's kind of a hard path to like what that actually looks like in terms of market size. That doesn't mean don't go solve the problem if there's actually a there related to it. It's just understanding what your path to success looks like and how you define success in your capital structure getting there. So those would be the last thoughts that come to mind.
I don't really have too much to add other than I did look it up, and handbell choir is exactly what it sounds like. They're the choirs that play the handbells.
Ding, ding.
Exactly. like Carol of the Bells at Christmas time.
So they only do it once a year?
No. Apparently there's a whole group of them that do it all year round. And it's just that those of us who don't partake in a weekly handbell choir practice only hear it at Christmas time. But anyway, so it's them. So when they say ringers, they didn't mean like a ringer, probably how you and I would hear a ringer, and like somebody who is brought in to clean up the bet, at the end. So it is exactly what it sounds like. Okay, all that having been said, like super, super niche, and that's not wrong, it just may not be venture scale, to your point. And this might be a thing where it's just like there's just no there. I'm like hesitant, like when you say churches don't pay for things, they pay for all kinds of things. They pay
actually really large businesses.
Yes, incredibly large organizations. Some of them are exceptionally large. And they have budgets. They pay for facilities, they pay for attorneys, they pay for janitorial, and they pay for a website usually at some point. So they do pay for can't make money with the wedge. So like, or something like that, so I have a lot of questions around that I just don't have the context in that world to really understand. But just 30,000 foot view, they're telling you that they don't have the problem with sufficient severity and urgency that they're willing to pay for a solution, in which case there's nothing you can really do for them unless you want to do it as a volunteer. Throw it on GitHub and move on.
There you go.
All right. Well, crushing dreams already.
Just a little dose of reality.
A reality check is why they say they come to us.
We have heard that on a regular occasion.
We do.
We want a reality check. So maybe we rebrand. This is our weekly reality check.
Sorry. Oh, yeah,
versus the
that should
office
be
hours.
like yeah, definitely. It's the Traction Lab weekly reality check
That you're all looking for.
that you're all looking for. If you're not, you should be. For some reason, I'm not seeing any comments come through, even the ones that you've left. So if
That's
you
okay.
can,
I'll
if you
let you
can
know.
keep an eye on that, that would be great. But we may not be able to throw them on screen. It looks like Restream is having some technical challenges there. But we'll move on to our second pre-submitted question. Again, JD, I'm going to bio calendar. You can submit a question, but we prioritize the live ones. If you do have one, we'll find it otherwise and just at least read it, even if we can't put it on screen for those of you who are watching it live. Okay. B2B SaaS for professional organizers specializing in hoarding cases. Marie Kondo up in the house. All right. They're at the unpaid pilot stage. They say, this is pretty niche. No kidding. We built case management software specifically for organizers who work with hoarding disorder clients. It's a real specialty within professional organizing. 6 organizers are testing it. They say it helps them track progress, document spaces, coordinate with therapists and family members, but hoarding cases are long, like 6 to 12 months minimum, sometimes years. And organizers only work with 2 to 4 hoarding clients at a time because it's so intensive. So each organizer has maybe 3 to 5 active cases total, $45 a month. That's like $9 to $15 per case. They're questioning if it's worth it when they could just use Google Docs. Fair point, honestly. Did we niche down too far? The work these organizers do is incredible and important, but the economics are brutal. Most don't even make that much money from it. Well, I mean, if they're working with 3 to 5 at a time and only paying $45 a month for a tool, and this is their job, like their full-time job, like I actually, those economics don't seem brutal to me. I don't know why that doesn't pan out. Like you're saying, yeah, they only work with 3 to 5 cases at a time, but let's assume that it's, that it's 5. And so that 5 active cases at a time, that means that they're spending, 8 hours per week per client. And if 8 hours per week per client isn't worth the $9 for the software, like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So like if you're a consultant, you're probably working with a comparable number at a time if you're like a solo consultant and they pay hundreds of dollars a month for software. So I'm not getting the economics of this and why that wouldn't work unless these people are literally just working for pennies, which I hope isn't the case, but like I guess it could be. I'm going to guess that it's not. Particularly since they're working in an ecosystem that also is coordinating with therapists and everything else. So I want to flag my skepticism of the way that you've interpreted the economic numbers here. I think the bigger thing is they're questioning if it's worth it when they could just use Google Docs. I don't think that's about the number being too high. I think that's just about they could just use Google Docs and they just don't see why what you're building is valuable to them, or valuable enough to overcome switching costs and any nominal fee. I don't know if you heard something different.
For sure, no, I think it's finding like what that leap in value. And one thing I would want to parse apart, like, are these professional organizers, are they like solopreneurs, or are they actually part of an organization? Because that would be different in terms of like maybe how they're using the software, who's actually the purchaser of it. I'm reading it as they're a solopreneur. So to your point is like, if they're spending 8 hours per client, and this drives some efficiency in that process, it might not be that leap in value to where they're like, we can go run a whole new case. And so it doesn't really pan out for them in terms of that like leap in value based on what they're doing. Even though it's a nominal fee, there's all the psychology of going into how they switch their workflows and all of the things, and it just might not be worth that current thing. And so I think that this thing I want to point out to is like, these are the risks of the unpaid pilot, right? We haven't like tested the riskiest component of the willingness to pay and the urgency and severity related to that problem. So giving them access to try this out, and then now asking later, we are getting likely feedback around the tool and the feasibility, not necessarily the desirability element. So they might continue to say, yeah, we'll use it for free, but like if I have to now pay more than what I'm paying for Google Docs, I'm just not getting that much more out of it. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, the last thing to address the question specifically, did we niche down too far? No, but it might be the wrong niche. And those are 2 different things, right? So it's not, the problem wasn't that you niche down too far, because you actually found a niche that you can get in front of, you can talk to them, you can get them to use the software. So the fact that you niched is working. What's not working is that this niche doesn't seem to really want what you're selling. Whoopsie doodle.
So like how might they, with this, like what would be an experiment to then go and test this?
So I think the only thing that comes to mind for me is a qualitative one. It's like, what is the actual problem that these organizers have right now? Like, what are their top 3 real problems? I'm guessing none of those top 3 problems have anything to do with how they're tracking in Google Docs right now. And so the fact that that's what you're solving is why they're not willing to pay for it. And so is there a problem that's number 1, 2, or 3 on their list that is within your capability to solve? And was that something that they would pay money for and that have good economics at the end of it? That's my question. The way you do that is with customer interviews.
Love it. So yeah, go to those existing people, get them on a call, have those qualitative conversations, and either based on that data, see how you might pivot, right?
Yeah.
And we can, if you're interested in learning more about the 9 to 10 ways to pivot, let us know.
We do have a pivot guide. If you are interested in that, hit us up. We might create that as a free resource for the community. Right now, it's just something that we share with our Traction Lab companies. Not because it's super secret or anything like that. It's just, it takes work to make something.
You have to know
public.
the handshake, though.
You have to know the secret handshake. But like, we might teach you the secret handshake. Which looks suspiciously like an email address, to get that resource. We just only create the resources where there's demand for it because we practice what we preach, and so we test everything internally. And if it's useful internally, and then we get demand signals from the outside, then we can offer it as a free resource. But we're more than happy to do that. So hit us up if that's something that you want to see. It's our guide, our complete guide to the pivot. All right. Setting all that aside, if you want to just check real quick if we have any live questions, and we'll go with our third pre-submitted question that we have. Alrighty, let's rock and roll. So this is B2B SaaS for sailboat charter companies offering bareboat and crewed charters. That's CREWED, by the way. Let's see, it's charter management booking software, booking, maintenance, tracking, provisioning, 73,000 in ARR from 48 charter companies in the Caribbean and Mediterranean mostly. Growth has stalled completely. I think we've basically saturated the addressable market. There just aren't that many charter companies, and most of the serious ones already know about us. We've been at roughly 70,000 ARR for like 9 months. We could try expanding into yacht clubs or sailing schools, but those are different use cases. Or we accept this as a lifestyle business that maxes out around 100,000 ARR and pays us decent salaries, but never becomes a real startup. Is that failure or just a different kind of success? My co-founder wants to pivot to something bigger. I kind of like the sailing industry and don't want to abandon our customers. We're stuck. Okay, so their startup is capsized.
How long have you been holding that one?
That just as soon as they said we're stuck, I'm like, they kind of missed the opportunity. They missed the boat, for a better pun. So I decided to offer one in the moment.
There you go. Are you going to throw them a life vest?
We could throw them a life vest. But for now, they are giving us the SOS. So I don't know if you have some advice you can.
I think the thing I want to focus on is kind of that last portion. So should we accept this lifestyle business that maxes out at 100K ARR, pays us decent salaries, but never becomes a real startup? Is this failure or just a different kind of success? And like, we can't tell you. At the end of the day, you have to define what success looks like for you and your co-founder. And what I'm hearing is that there's 2 different visions of what success looks like for the venture. And we see this oftentimes as the number 3 reason startups fail is based on team dynamics. And that's a core element of their vision of what that startup is. Someone wants to build a highly scalable, venture backable startup, and the other wants to have a lifestyle business. The whole process of building that startup is going to be fundamentally different. The way you raise capital, the scale in which you ultimately grow to will be different. And so you have to understand, and I think there's a crucial conversation you need to have as a co-founding team of what that success looks like and what the path forward ultimately looks like tied to that. So that's kind of where I wanted to focus. If you wanted to focus more on the capsize and the life vest you might have for them.
No, I completely agree with that, right? It's whether or not it's failure or a different kind of success is depending on how you're defining success. So we can't answer that for you. As far as like, this is why it's important from the outset to have a basic understanding of the unit economics here, because I don't think it's a surprise how many of these sailing companies are out there. I think that was knowable from the outset, and so we probably should have known that we were going to cap out. And we've actually had a startup in our portfolio that discovered in the early days that there wasn't going to be a there, and so then abandoned ship and changed.
Well, so I
changed
think part of
direction.
that was
So,
their vision for building that startup was highly scalable. So
Right.
they wanted to build that versus a lifestyle business. If it was from the get-go, we want to build a lifestyle business, then maybe that would have been the clear path to continue on. But it was like based on their vision of success in that future, they said this isn't actually the roadmap we want to go down.
Right. So now they're cruising in a different direction. But if you're wanting to do something scalable, or at least you're wanting to understand the potential of the business, you have to understand those basic unit economics. So you understand what your potential for scale is. Even if you're after a lifestyle business, you should probably understand how much money you can make at something. Just understand if it's worth the fuck ton of work that it is to actually have a startup. So I think that I know that that's not helpful in the moment, but for everybody else who's listening, make sure that you have an understanding of those unit economics. Scale is not a given. So because you've kind of maxed out in this thing, and if you are looking at something that's larger than 100K per year, then it is going to be, we need to pivot to something bigger. Pivot doesn't necessarily mean abandoning your customers. Like, is it possible that this is a wedge into a larger market? I don't know, like charter management, how specific is that to this?
Like fishing boats, or, like there's a whole bunch of other types of, fleets out there.
Safari Jeeps?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how broadly applicable something like this or this reapplication of a technology, but what we're looking at, assuming that you can't find just a nice little adjacent market, then we're actually looking at, can we discover additional market opportunities, which is the application of particular competency to a particular customer with a problem? And so you have the technology, and so now it is, how can we apply that to a different customer segment to create a new opportunity for us to explore?
Yeah, so like I think another way is like thinking like, is this problem also pertinent to another audience out there? So like, is there transferable to other crews or charter groups that maybe aren't on water? They're in other elements, and so they face this same type of charter management challenges that they have going forward. So there's a whole bunch of other opportunities out there.
Totes my goats. All right. So we got some.
You have some.
Yeah, we got some.
I'm not getting them.
Well, that's because these are YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So you're just on LinkedIn there. The YouTube ones are coming in fine. Hello. I don't know who you are because you don't have a fun YouTube username, but you're here and saying hi.
Thank you.
And then if there are two potential customer sections, institutions, individuals, because there's sometimes a little delay on this. I'm not 100% sure to which question, but it says 4 minutes ago. So I'm thinking that must have been the question right prior to this with the professional organizers.
Yeah. So I think that was to the point of like, are they individual consultants or are they part of an organization? Right. And that does just drive a distinction, right? So if it's an individual, they're probably looking at like, if this opens up more time, can I bring on more cases or customers?
Actually clarified.
And then, I guess I'll just finish my train of thought. It was like, then if it's the like, an institution that has a bunch of these people that are going out and doing this work, like, does that then drive a top line revenue or increase opportunity or drive efficiencies in decreasing costs, things of that nature? So what is like, how is their life better? Or what's the return on that investment for the organization itself? And who makes that decision? Right.
All right, so little clarifier there. Okay, so for a startup that provides consultancy services, which way would it be easier for customer acquisition, targeting institutions to individuals, and which strategy could work better? And like this is going to end up depending a lot on the market that you're in and the actual customer behavior that we have. I've done a lot of consulting in my days. I've run multiple consulting companies. The Traction Lab isn't a consulting company, but you could probably put it kind of in the same loose category for these purposes as well. And the whether or not it's easier to target individuals or institutions depends on the purchasing behavior and price sensitivity and other things as well. So if you're targeting a really high dollar, think of these as like big four, type, or big three type. I was just mixing
the big one.
The big one. Well, that's us. That's the Traction Lab. We're the big one.
You can't sell us.
But one of the big three, firms, then you're looking at accounts that are 50 grand is like a small account, and so then is like it's going to be pretty difficult to target an individual with something like that, right? There's a very small number of consultants that fit into that category. The number is non-zero. I actually know some people who do serve individual consultants and do charge that kind of rate, but it's a very, very small club. But those bigger companies are therefore targeting other institutions because they can operate at that scale. They also have an army of consultants that they're looking to deploy because all those are all resources that they can have, that they want high utilization on in order to bill for. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it is that those larger institutions could also be really difficult to sell. They can have long sales cycles. It's way easier to find somebody who just has a problem and they just kind of want to overcome this little hurdle in their, in their small business or in their solopreneurship or something like that. And they're just looking for a little bit of help. And they're not going to get that resource from the SBDC or something else. And so they're going to pay somebody to do that. Now that's low dollar, high volume. And so those are just two different sides of the same equation. A lot of it's going to depend on a lot of it. And relationship driven sales, influencer partnerships, account-based marketing, those are all just different strategies that are again going to depend on the actual institutions. Like account-based marketing can work well if you're trying to do like bottoms up in an organization. It's really difficult to get people for. Influencer partnerships probably don't work as well on the institutional side, but do they work? They actually work pretty fucking great on like the individual side when you're targeting those small people. So it's going to depend on a lot of that. So what?
Small people.
When you're targeting the little people in your life, the peons, the irrelevant ones. I can make that joke because I've been that person, and
Are you that person?
Well, I mean, the Traction Lab does not have an army of people. The bulk of the Traction Lab staff are with us in the room right now. So I think we can put ourselves in that camp. But thanks for the awesome question. Got it. Yeah. And so if you're targeting the individuals and they just don't have a lot of money, then you just have to understand like the financial game is just a little bit different. That you want to be chasing either lower customer acquisition cost to such that you want your runway. Or sorry, you want your lifetime value to exceed the customer acquisition cost, which means you need to be able to get the volume of those customers really cheaply. We call that the payback period. Usually when we're talking about SaaS, it's like if it costs you $100 to acquire a customer and it's a SaaS for like $10 a month, then it takes you 10 months before you even start making money, because that's the payback period. That's how long it takes to pay back customer acquisition cost. So when you're doing consulting, you want to keep those two things in mind as well and make sure that this actually works on volume. But otherwise, it's totally viable. You can make great, buku bucks, doing that. It just has to be worth it. So, all right. I think that was all of our pre-submitted questions. We only had 3 this week, but thank you guys for submitting those. Again, jdm.bio, you can click the little calendar, submit a question in advance. But thank you to those of us who asked your questions live. Appreciated that. It's always good. We'll probably land the plane here, even though it's a little early. We could always just make up things to talk about. But
no, I think we build on your energy, so we always love the live questions. So if you have a question out there, we'd love to dive into it. But always tackle the pre-submitted questions. So thank you for those that did so. I think maybe the last quick filibuster, we are filling out our second cohort of the Traction Lab Venture School, so tlds.link. If you want to learn more about how to build that repeatable sales engine going forward, or how we talk about our growth engine of building that predictable, repeatable path to customers, would love for you to join in on that. We're filling that up going forward. So feel free to check that out. And I think with that, I don't have anything else to say, but cool. Thank you for asking your questions. Thanks for hopping on live. If you're listening to the recording on our podcast, thank you for being a listener. Please do like and share. You're our best marketing vehicle, so please share. We want to continue to support founders. Again, this is a free resource to support founders in building high conviction startups.
All right. Awesome sauce.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Cameron, thanks for hanging out and letting us enjoy your magnificent space here at the university. It's always good to be hanging out here, even though we don't have we can be more dynamic in person, but I feel like the production quality takes a hit when we have to like randomly set up in a place.
Oh, we'll share the picture of what we actually have lined up here with our video camera on a box.
Like, we do have like, yeah, a very nice mirrorless camera, but sitting on a cardboard box to get it at the right height here, because I didn't feel like lugging a tripod across campus. That was just my personal decision, and I stand by it. But we're here for you guys. Thanks so much. If for those of you listening on the podcast feed, we'll be back in your feed on Saturday. Otherwise, with that, we'll sign off in our usual way.